Welcome back to Apolitical. Thanks so much for joining me another week. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. So today we're going to be sitting down once again with District 10 City Council candidate Jason Hudgins. I decided to invite Jason back to the show after learning that his opponent, Councilwoman Andrea Boone, had a cease and desist letter sent to his home back in July, just days after he announced his candidacy. So I wanted to know how he felt about the letter and why exactly he thinks it was sent. And that's exactly what we discussed today. So coming right up is our second interview with District 10 City Council candidate Jason Hudgins. Stay tuned. All right, so we are here with Jason Hudgins. Jason is a candidate for City Council in District 10. Jason, welcome back to Apolitical. You're actually the first person that I'm saying welcome back to, so thank you for pulling back up on us.
Hey, it's good to be back with you guys.
All right, so I brought you back because last week you posted a video on your Instagram that was very interesting. I don't know if listeners have seen it yet, but I'm going to play it.
Hello. My name is Jason Hudgins, candidate for Atlanta City Council District 10, and I wanted to speak directly to you today so that we can deal with the elephant in the room. When I entered this race, I was told that my opponent was a politician's politician, and at the end of the day, when she could not beat me on the issues, she would seek to assassinate my character. Literally days after launching this campaign, she had her lawyer send a letter to my home alleging that I had violated the security and safety of her home and made her feel unsafe. Now, my grandmother taught me growing up that God goes before you and provides protection. Literally on the night where Councilwoman Boone said that the accusation happened, I was sitting on the side of I-75 with a flat tire on a brand new truck. And at the time, I was annoyed that the tow truck driver took over 4 hours to get to me and tow me home, and that my parents had to come all the way from Douglasville in order to pick me up. What I know now is that God was providing protection from what would be a vicious and dangerous lie. I would expect more from the daughter of a civil rights icon than to use an age-old lie that literally has gotten Black men across the world killed. Now, Councilwoman Boone is alleging that I have disgraced the name and legacy of Councilman C.T. Martin. There are not words to describe how offensive this lie is.
So I emailed you after I saw this video and we ended up talking on the phone, so I know a little bit about what happened. So, but for our listeners, can you please explain what actually prompted you to make that video?
Yeah, so there were several events that kind of led up to this. The immediate event was I was supposed to speak and participate in an event with a community group in Southwest Atlanta. I got a call as a part of, the run up to that. It was kind of weird. It was really nasty at first, an email saying take the pictures off the website, and I didn't understand. And then it was, you're bad mouthing Councilman C.T. Martin, and this is coming down. And then it was just rolling on top of each other's, one after the other. And I was actually disinvited from this event over, rumors and innuendo, and in a conversation behind the scenes that did not involve me. It involved one of the seniors of my community that I very much love and trust. It was that I was, attacking Councilman Martin's name. I had attacked the incumbent in this race and, was being super nasty to her, and I didn't understand. And then it was kind of a cease and desist letter, and I speak to it in the video, that I received literally in the opening days of this campaign. I launched my campaign on a Tuesday. The very next Monday night, I received this letter.
Back in July, right?
This was back in July. In the letter, it was laughable on one end because it demanded that I not use the incumbent's name, that I not tell anyone what race I was running in, that I not say I was in District 10. But then in the middle of it, there was a very a serious accusation that was made that I had violated the safety and security of the councilwoman's neighborhood and made her feel unsafe. And I had heard rumors, and there have been rumors about me in this race as we've gone through. It's been a really nasty race, dirty political tricks and all of that. You expect some of that when you get into it, but I made the determination in that moment. And me and my lawyer, after the letter arrived in July, had a conversation of saying, he laughed out loud, literally, when we received it. But then it was, I can address this, but it's going to be better for you if you address it at the time that this isn't the last thing she's going to pull. She's trying to intimidate you. And this will be better if you address it at the right time when everyone is paying attention. He's like, you'll get to expose who she really is. You'll get to speak to who you really are. And you'll show how you handle issues and situations, which is why I put the video out. Because if nothing else, my community will tell you that when there's a problem, when there's an issue, I address everything out front. I lay all the facts out as we know them, and then I call us together in order to figure out how we come to a solution and a better way forward.
Right. So I want to talk about that point. Her attorney saying in the letter that you violated the security of her neighborhood.
Yes.
Do you have any idea where that accusation comes from?
No, I do not know where Councilwoman Boone lives. I have no knowledge of that information. I think I was the only candidate who was naive enough, I will say that, as a first-time candidate to actually put my address on all of my paperwork. I will never do that again if I were to ever run again. But what happened was in the run-up, so that Sunday before this letter was sent on the Monday, there was a community event in Westview. It was the first in-person event we had held in 18 months. I had literally just stepped down as president. The new president was there. We were introducing the new team. The Atlanta Symphony Orchestra was playing in the neighborhood. Councilwoman Boone showed up. It's the first event she has shown up to literally since I invited her right after she was elected. No community meetings, nothing else. And I don't think she got the reception she thought she was going to get. Literally, the community was like, where have you been? And she, people were not falling all over themselves to talk to her. The community, as she, was whispering some things to people checked her in the moment. And I think her and her team were taken aback. She had a team member there with her. I didn't interact with her. Sort of spoke as she walked by me, didn't interact with her at all. And I left that event and, like I said, drove heading to a birthday event up in Marietta. I think that she was embarrassed, and what she thought in that moment was that even as an incumbent, this wasn't going to be an easy walk. That Westview is an important neighborhood in our district because of the size of it. And I think she felt like I could potentially take her out. And that was a moment where I think she thought I would intimidate her. The day before that Saturday, I had been canvassing in the neighborhood. It was my first canvassing event. And she and her team were out on a corner, Cascade and Ralph David Abernathy, where a lady was killed on the Beltline when her car flipped onto the Beltline a few weeks ago. Waving their signs, and my team put up a post on Facebook of saying, "Here's Councilwoman Boone on this intersection with her signs. Here were the signs the community had when we had to protest about the safety of this intersection." And so she was embarrassed. She didn't get the reception that she thought she was going to get, and I think she thought she could intimidate me out of the race, honestly.
So you're saying there was a protest going on?
Not at that moment.
Okay.
But we had previously, the community, there was the Respect Cascade program. It was in the news of the kids at Tuskegee Airmen Academy having protested, marched down Cascade, demanding street improvements. It's a dangerous road, and we know that. So I think that I don't know what she was thinking, that she would think she would make that accusation. I would just leave it alone. I said in the video, and I hold on to this, that's a dangerous lie. And while many times race doesn't matter in these conversations, number one, the staff member that was with Councilwoman Boone on that Sunday was a white woman. And I believe that she was, and I don't know this for sure, I don't know who her team is, was advising her at that point. So if that lie came through that team, that's even more egregious. The other side of this is Councilwoman Boone's the daughter of a civil rights icon. Yeah. So for her to use a lie that has literally gotten black men killed, I would expect more of her. I would think that she would have more integrity than that. If you can't beat me on the issues, that's one thing. You don't have to assassinate my character. And I told that to to a community leader who's supporting Councilwoman Boone last week. Many of these people have sons, have grandsons, have nephews. How would they feel? My crime seems to be that I had the audacity to run against Councilwoman Boone without her permission. When I told you last time I was on the podcast that I told her I was going to run. She wasn't blindsided. She got a phone call and a text message from me before I ran. Out of respect, I'm a community leader who has worked with her in the past, and I didn't have anything to hide. She said then, "I can't believe that you would run against me rather than work with me." And she's quoted a scripture, which is, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." It's the idea that she thinks she's entitled to this position, and she's going to do whatever it takes to hold on to it.
Yeah, you're obviously her opponent now, but what was your relationship with her before this race, if there was one?
It was a purely professional relationship. She has alleged in this race that she was my mentor, and I stabbed her in the back by running. Councilwoman Boone and I have never had a conversation outside of community information. We have seen each other. When I saw her in July, it was the first time I had seen her in 3.5 years since she was first elected. She's not present in our community. And then COVID hit. So, we have been virtual for 18 months. There was no professional relationship. She doesn't know any member of my family. We've never been to dinner together. It was literally something's going on in the community, and I need you to know as the council person, me as the community president, and then as the MPU chair.
Yeah. You also said in the video that you knew that Andrea Boone was a politician's politician. This is her first term in office, right? Her first election was in 2017. So I'm trying to figure out where this notion kind of came from that she was that sort of politician. Did it come from that race in 2017?
No, I think it came from her years in Councilman Martin. She was Councilman Martin's chief of staff prior to being elected. The sort of, even on the council website, she talks about inheriting this position in life. She was installed because she was the next person in line. And we know in Atlanta politics, there is that idea that you have a time, you have a moment where you get to run and it's your time to step up and all of that. I think it was from those years. She had also previously run the mayor's office of constituent services under Kasim Reed. So I think she has a reputation of some very sharp elbows. She gives off in public this, I would say almost like grandmotherly, church lady persona. That's not the real her. It is what she has crafted so that you don't expect that. And the one thing that I've gotten just about universally when I decided to run and told people that I was running was people would say, "Oh, District 10, what race is that? Who's the opponent?" And I would say Andrea Boone, and it would be like, like literally people would have that reaction. And maybe it was my own naivete of, saying, I care about my community. I'm running. Here are my issues. Here's what I want to talk about. And I don't run a program like that. Even at the community level, I'm not going to fight with people. I'm not going to argue. I put facts out because I was taught growing up that if you expose things to light, there's a lot that happens in that moment. That a lot happens behind the cover, under the cover of darkness, but exposing things to light really does change the dynamics of a situation, and that's how I handle it.
This is your first time running for office, but like you said, you've been a community leader for a while now, so I'm sure you've seen campaigns, been around campaigns, maybe have even been involved in campaigns yourself. Is this normal in Atlanta politics? Cease and desist letters, this sort of behind the scenes cattiness, is this something you've seen before?
I don't think it's normal. The other candidates have very much, and I'm very thankful for the brotherhood and sisterhood of other candidates who have rallied around me, particularly after this information has come out. And one thing they all remark is how nasty my race is. There are other races in this city that are very contested, that aren't seeing this level of acrimony. My issue, and I spoke to it in the video, we're not talking about issues here. We're not talking about displacement or housing or transportation. This is the nastiness behind the scenes, and I think it comes from the place of people just wanting to be in power. I said it on the first podcast that, I believe this is a skill set issue. I'm running to bring a certain skill set to the council, but also I think in acknowledging that we have to acknowledge that many of the people in power in our city government right now, they don't have a skill set that allows them to do anything else but be appointed or be in government. It's not like they're going to walk out of this position if they're not elected and go and get a good corporate job without some connection or somebody that knows them going in. And I think that is a realization that's here also. And it's what makes it the dangerous side of it, because people will do anything to hold on to power. And that's why I address this head on, because if nothing else, the integrity of my name matters to me. I'm not perfect. I make plenty of mistakes. You may not agree with me, but you have to admit that I'm doing it for the right reasons, and I tried to do it the right way. Yep. There are plenty of critiques for everybody in this race, but the level of nastiness in this race is not normal.
Yeah. Have you been able to speak to her since the letter was sent?
No. She has been, her members of her team and people around her, as I've shown up at different events, my team actually stopped putting my events on my website for a period because her or a member of her team would show up. If so, and that's politics, that's what happens. But we've had no more than, a hello and keep moving. I saw her at the Victory Fund mixer a couple of weeks ago. That was only the second time in this race there and in Westview at the beginning of the race that I've seen her, and so it's something at this point that I didn't have a personal issue with the councilwoman before this race. I do now.
Right.
And so she's not someone I want to deal with. Yeah. When I decided to run, she made the offer. She said, well, I can mentor you and I can put you on board. So I think that's where that mentorship thing came from. She thought I just wanted the position. Yeah. And she thought if she put me in another position that I would go for it. And when she saw I couldn't be bought by a position or a title, then it became I need to destroy him.
Yeah. We know Atlanta has a long history in politics, and we don't really see a lot of young people on these city council seats. Do you think there's sort of this unspoken rule in Atlanta that you have to, quote unquote, wait your turn before running for an office like this?
Yeah, I've heard that from other members of the community. There are other elders who have pulled me aside and said, Jason, I think you're a great guy. I think you're going to be great in this position one day. It's not your turn. And I have an issue with that because, and the 10th district is the epicenter of this. You got to remember, we have Adamsville and Collier Heights in our district. Right. So when we're talking about the epicenter of this, that you have mayoral candidates who their entire platform is what community they're from, and that type of idea, the Atlanta way is a real factor here. I have a bit of an issue with that because it does not lend itself to solving the problems of our community. Atlanta's had black leadership for 40 years through this pipeline, you hear about the Atlanta machine that installs people, makes decisions where people go and what they do. The problem is there's an entire community of people outside of that machine who are suffering, who aren't given opportunities simply because they're not a part of. I would be careful how I say this, but the truth is it's not serving us anymore. And if we don't make a decision to consciously change, reform, or dismantle these machines and what we're doing, there's another machine at work outside of our community that's looking to wipe all of us out. Right. It won't be an older versus younger black person. It won't be someone that's black, period. And I don't think me being black means that I should be in the position, but in a community that's 90% black, representation does matter. It matters that there's black people on the council, black women on the council. As a member of the LGBTQ community, it matters to me that there's a representation on the council. It has to show up at all levels.
Yeah. We know you're the younger candidate, you're the fresh face, but where do you feel like you beat Councilwoman Boone on the issues? Because she has been serving in the seat the past 4 years.
She has been serving in the seat, and I'll quote another member of city government that says, until recently, she hadn't sponsored a major piece of legislation. Coming into this race, her biggest issue was that she sponsored the legislation to make Juneteenth a holiday in Atlanta. Joe Biden got that right before she did. That didn't feed anybody. That didn't deal with any of the dilapidated housing or housing issues issues that we have. She has sponsored more legislation. I made the joke on Facebook the other day that after the Cop City vote, she literally put her name on every piece of legislation that they put into committee that night, and it was almost as if someone said, hey, the election's coming, look busy. You shouldn't just be paying attention to issues when you're challenged. She has sponsored to put money into the HOPWAR program, the Housing for Persons with AIDS program that the city sent millions of dollars back on. She's doing that because she's running against me. She has focused in on trees in the city's right-of-way. In Westview, I highlighted last week, we had a neighbor killed last year. It was a year ago this week that Gerald Crawford was killed by a tree that fell out of the city right-of-way and fell onto his home and crushed him. It shouldn't have taken this election for those type of issues. I think when we look at housing in our community, when we look at transportation and safety, Councilwoman Boone has not been on the forefront of any of those conversations. Even at the neighborhood level, we celebrated, and shout out to Representative Stacey Evans. She worked with the Georgia Department of Transportation to get a turn lane at Ralph David Abernathy and Cascade. That's something at the community level we've been advocating for literally years. We worked with her, worked with GDOT. We're finally going to get one. Councilwoman Boone wasn't a part of that conversation. And I have an issue with that even if you can't fix it, you've got to be at the forefront of these conversations. Housing is an issue in our district. Why are the housing ordinances that are being proposed coming out of the east side of Atlanta? Why are the economic development ordinances coming out on the north side of Atlanta? Why are the West End councilors not really doing anything on the legislative side?
Yeah. Are you open or focused on having a conversation with her, making amends, or is this point just focused on running the race?
I'm focused on running the race. After the race is over, if she wants to reach out, I'm willing to have a conversation, but I'm going to be honest about that. Setting parameters around those type of conversations is important. She has to apologize publicly for what she did. This is unacceptable. It could have gotten me hurt, and it was done maliciously, and she's going to address that if we're going to have any conversation.
Okay, well, Mr. Hudgins, I thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And before I let you go, once again, could you please tell our listeners where they can keep up with your campaign and follow you on this race?
Most definitely. You can find me. My website is www.jason4atl.com. You can find me on any social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, Jason4atl. And I look forward to the conversation.